Welcome to another episode of Distorted Opinions, where we talk all things music. I'm once again joined by Matt and Ted, and today we have our first special guest. We're joined by Marcus Washington, local sax player and a longtime friend of ours going back to middle and high school. I think we're going to have a ton to talk about this episode. It's quite possibly going to be a two-part episode, but we thought that we'd spend the first part just kind of catching up with Marcus and talking about how we know each other, talking a little bit about our high school, middle school band experiences, and how Marcus got into playing sax. So welcome to the show, Marcus. We're happy to have you.
Welcome.
So why don't we, start with the obvious question, which is, how did you decide on sax? I know we all have reasons that we picked the instruments we did when we first got into music. I'm sure you probably have a reason that you chose saxophone. I'm curious to know, more about how you decided on playing sax over the other instruments that we had to pick from back in the day.
Well, so when I was in third grade, the first instrument I ever played was violin. So I started playing violin in third grade, fourth grade. And I remember seeing some of the other fourth graders and band instruments. I'm like, oh, they're metal, they're shiny, they've got all these keys on them, they're mechanical. And that drew my attention right to the saxophone. And then I was thinking to myself, wait a second, my grandfather has one of these. Maybe he'll let me play it. And so when I went into fifth grade, that's when I started playing saxophone.
Awesome. So your grandfather played as well.
Yes, that was his career in the Army. He was a musician. He played saxophone and clarinet.
Wow, that's awesome. I had no idea.
That's pretty cool.
I had no idea that you played the violin too. So wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, first and foremost, obviously, your grandfather, being an inspiration to picking up the instruments, but also to, serving his country. So I just want to say, thank you for his service and whatnot. And that's amazing and whatnot. So with that being said, with going from, a string instrument to a woodwind instrument, was there any type of, like when you're picking up a new instrument, did it just feel natural to pick it up, or was it kind of like, trying to learn how to ride a bike again? Like how would you describe picking up the saxophone for the first time, going from a violin to a saxophone?
There definitely was a learning curve. I had to get used to it. So it was, I think I picked it up pretty quickly, fairly quickly.
I think the big hurdle there is probably learning to read music. So if you already know how to read music, then that's a big step in the process for sure. Obviously, there's learning how to play a woodwind instrument, which is different, but reading music is a big thing. And as a guitar player, and Matt and Ted, you also play guitar. Guitar kind of simplifies that a little bit because you have tabs. So you don't necessarily have to know how to read music. And this is actually a conversation that I've had with a few people throughout the quarantine who have been talking about picking up an instrument, particularly guitar, and they're really kind of reluctant to do it because they don't understand how to read music on a guitar. And it's like, no. It is so much easier on a guitar. You don't need to learn how to read music because there's tabs. So, literally anybody could pick up a guitar without needing to understand, how to read music and be able to play a song. So, I think starting out on a violin, and I think, was that Mrs. Blackwell and Mr. Tree that taught the violin ensemble?
Must have been.
That was Mr. Blackwell.
Okay, yeah. That's going back. Yeah, it's going back away. Wow. Who remembers Mrs. Blackwell, Mr. Connolly? The pilot episode, we talked about, some of our musical influences, and
it's like history just went to me and went, wow. Yeah. I forgot about that person.
Yeah. I can't believe I remembered that. And I didn't play violin. I remember in third grade, I wanted to join the woodwind band, and it wasn't an option for third graders. You couldn't join until fourth grade. And so I didn't play violin, but I had a number of friends who did. And fourth grade is when I actually picked up my first instrument, and that was Mr. Tree at that point. So but yeah, that's really awesome that you played violin. I always forget who exactly started on a violin, but you know, it's a good starting
Oh
point.
yeah.
You learn how to read music, you learn the basic fundamentals of music, and then you can move on to other instruments.
I will also point out that anyone that may have started on violin no longer plays violin. I don't know a single
I don't
current person playing a violin these days. I mean, I know one person that plays cello, and I'm wanting to pick up the cello just because it sounds super cool. But
Right.
So
that's just a different conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
I think to back that up, and we'll have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, obviously, you know, back in third, fourth grade, where there was the option to have the violin, you know, as the four of us can recall, we all went to the same school. That our school didn't have a kind of like an orchestra type of band. It was more always concert band. So the option to have really like string instruments really wasn't there. I'm sure later on down the road, I mean, maybe even today they may have it, but I know that when we were all in there, it was more like concert band and not orchestra, which, you know, would have been actually pretty unique to join.
Yeah, well, and obviously the school size, I mean, we were a tiny school. I mean,
Right.
you know, the whole high school, 4 grades was
Really
under 400. So the fact that you even got to play violin could be an end of an era, to be honest, because I don't recall anybody, even as we went through middle school and high school, even having a string instrument like that as an option. So
Right.
that's pretty cool.
Marcus, do you think that if someone gave you a violin right now, you'd be able to pick it up like no problem?
Dude, I haven't played my clarinet since high school. That's not going to work for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it would take me a while to, you know, get the hang of it again. I pretty much forgotten most of it.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Amazing. That's amazing. So with well, kind of going back to instruments, and obviously your primary instrument, the saxophone. There's obviously a variety of different types of saxophones. There's the tenor sax, there's the alto sax, there's the soprano sax. You know what? I know when we played in the jazz band, and correct me if I'm wrong, you switched off between the alto and the tenor, or did you play also the soprano at some points too?
When I was in jazz band, I first started the high school jazz band when I was in 6th grade, and at that point they needed a trombone player, and that was the only opening. So I played trombone, and then I would also play soprano sax on certain songs.
Perfect. So what would you say? What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I don't recall if I played alto or tenor while I was in the jazz band or in the jazz band.
Okay.
I might have.
What would you say is your personal preference for the type of sax? Which would you rather go? What would your personal preference be?
My go-to is the tenor. Tenor is very versatile. I can play it with any type of music. The tone is right. Although, so I'd say second would be alto. I play alto on certain songs, and I very rarely play soprano, unless I've got the rare opportunity where I get to play some jazz and there's a part that sounds good for soprano, then I'll play that. But most of the music I play is like R&B, funk, soul, rock. So the tenor works great for all of that.
That's awesome. And yeah, I definitely agree that the tenor sax is definitely very versatile. It's kind of like that happy medium where it has that just enough high tones, but also kind of that also versatile in the low tones as well. So yeah, definitely a very happy medium, but that's awesome. That's awesome to hear.
Yep.
And then I know you mentioned jazz band, and we touched upon concert band, but we also did marching band together. For as small of a marching band that we had, I mean, for high school, I know Matt, myself in middle school, were basically joined the marching band in 7th grade because they just needed people.
Right.
Do you recall when you joined marching band?
I think I'm not sure if it was 8th grade or I think it was. I think I joined the marching band in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we needed people. I mean, even with all those, I think we still maybe had 17, including those middle schoolers.
Wow.
Like there was nobody.
Yep.
There was nobody.
Well, hey, oh, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I remember my brother was actually in the marching band too when he was in middle school. He played.
That's right.
That's right. I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what's funny, guys, is that I remember one day that I forgot what game it was. Obviously, it was a home game. But I remember a couple of the audience, a couple of people in the stands mentioned that they purposely go to the games because even though our team sucked, yes, our team sucked. We tried, but we sucked. A few people said that they purposely come to the games to watch the marching bands.
That's right.
Because of, just that was like the entertainment. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with, the football team or whatnot, but, when we played in the marching band, we had a camaraderie that obviously stood out to the audience to have them come to the games purposely just for halftime to watch the bands, as well as hear the tunes that we played in the stands whenever there was a break. It was always
I was going to say, not to mention the formations that we had, it varied every year. I mean, we didn't do the same routine every year. It changed, I feel like, for the most part. So, that was also another factor of, keeping it fresh. So definitely thinking back to best practices at night, I'm trying to rehearse 3 steps this way, 2 steps forward.
As Outcast once said, so fresh and so clean. But those days of marching band were they were so fun. They were so fun. And but speaking of that, one memorable trip that we all took.
I already have it in my notes. I was going to bring it up if you didn't.
Hey, good. All right, I will say this. So, Marcus being a special guest to today's episode, we do have to bring up Virginia Beach. And Ted, it's up to you. Go ahead.
Take
it away.
That was really for a band trip. That was the first time. I mean, we did the local, in-state concert band performances and things like that. And, get to go to Six Flags afterwards and whatnot. But the fact that we got to get 2 coach buses for the entire band, and both my parents were chaperones.
I have pictures of your dad with the bus driver.
I'm not surprised. And 13 hours down to Virginia Beach, and the setup was crazy because we were right on the beach, and then there was a monster truck event.
Yes,
right outside our building.
Yeah,
that was outrageous. Rehearsing in the mornings before the actual performance. Doing Busch Gardens. Holy crap, we did a lot. I mean, how long was that trip? 4 days?
It was long.
Yeah, I think it was like about 4 days. Yeah,
but still, I mean, a lot of memories in those 4 days.
Yeah. I think there are some memories.
Remember? any memories from that? I'm not gonna.
Marcus, do you have any memories?
Anything we can talk about that won't get you in trouble at this point in your life? I distinctly remember something about balconies.
The way it's phrased, it sounds like he's done something. Nothing happened. It's just we want his opinion or his perspective on what he recalls now.
I mean,
he didn't do anything. Just be clear.
He did nothing illegal.
Illegally, right? Yeah, nothing illegal. teeter-tottering on safety, but hey, that could be taken offline if anyone was ever curious. But Marcus, was there anything memorable about that Virginia Beach trip that you could say from your perspective that you liked when it came down to your musicianship?
I think just the fact that we had the opportunity as the band to go down there and perform and be part of a competition, I mean, that's huge. It's huge considering that we were such a small high school, and that they let us do that. Busch Gardens was fun. Being on Virginia Beach, I think that was the first time I've ever been to Virginia Beach. And
that's my first and only.
Yeah,
Still.
Same here. Here. It was just really cool. I mean, I love traveling, and I wish I could do it more. So any opportunity that I have a chance to travel is just it's huge, and that was very memorable for me.
Yeah, I remember. So when I served, excuse me, when I served in the Army, when I was doing my my school and my AIT. It was at Fort Eustis, Virginia, and there was a quick. This is just a quick story that there was a protocol that if you passed your PT test, there were certain levels that you could go ahead. So there was there was a red card, there was a green card, then there was what was called an Eagle Pass. An Eagle Pass was you could go off base for a whole weekend. So where Eustis was a half hour from Virginia Beach, and I remember specifically that got this Eagle Pass, passed the PT test, and my first Friday, I was like, see ya, I'm out. And the first place I went to was the hotel that we stayed at on Virginia Beach, purposely on the same floor. And I purposely asked for a room that oversaw the beach. And it was just a flush of memories, and it was like, damn, the only thing that could really make this is just having everyone from the band all like just magically show up and be like, hey, now we're a lot friggin' older. Okay, let's recreate this whole thing. But that's one.
I'll bring the plastic bags in the camper.
I mean, I didn't risk my safety on that weekend, but it was definitely that was my second time going there. But now every time I think of Virginia Beach, I think of us four, and I think of the rest of the band, and our awesome teacher and our awesome chaperones that really guided us through such a memorable and great time during our high school years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also, one other thing, we did a dinner theater.
That's right.
Oh wow! Yeah,
at Virginia Beach.
I have pictures of that too.
Yeah. I just remember, like, I have a picture of Mark with like the massive green sunglasses that like take up 80% of your face. Absolutely, it's really funny.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot that we did a dinner theater. That's right.
That's the reason why we got back to the hotel so late, and we more or less got to see one or two runs of the Monster Truck show, was because we were at that dinner theater.
Right.
Was Gravedigger there?
Yep.
Was he? I don't remember.
I think so.
Bigfoot,
yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That was an amazing time to be on the beach, and like you said, the fact that we got rooms that overlooked the water, the beach, was something else. And the chorus, I believe, also participated in that competition, because I remember
in that too.
I wasn't in the chorus, but I remember seeing. Were all three of you in the chorus?
Yeah, all
Marcus,
three of us were.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember being on the balcony and seeing you guys all circled up down on the beach for a rehearsal prior to the
outside the hotel. Yep.
Yeah, I have a picture of that too, so I'm sure we'll show that. If there's one thing that I'm good for, it's bringing up old pictures of just about everything that can be included in any show. But yeah, no, that was a great trip, and yeah, that was, I think, one of the only long distance trips that we went on, and I just remember that being a ton of fun. And unfortunately, didn't get to go on any other lengthy trips after that. We did local trips and stuff. And I know I talked on a previous show, I continued after high school with both marching band and concert band in college. And in college, we traveled to a lot more away games. I don't think we ever went to away games in high school.
Unless it was Thanksgiving Day and it was
and it was Littleton, right?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yep.
So
our respectful rivals.
That's right. So
you beat us every year. It doesn't matter. Like
again, the show is called Distorted Opinion.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry to all those Littletonians. So.
But yeah, I remember in college that, we did a lot more traveling to away games. We even went to some performances that weren't even games that the football team was playing at. We went to Montreal and we played at a Montreal Canadian Football League game, which was interesting because the field had a 55-yard line, unlike here in the U.S. where the middle point is the 50-yard line. So, we spent a lot of time leading up to that rehearsing how to deal with the additional 5 yards that were on a Canadian football field. But, it was one of the things I really enjoyed about being in the marching band was, like you, Marcus, I don't get to travel a lot. I've never been outside of the country. I think the only places I've traveled to outside of the state are places where I have relatives that live, or the furthest I've gone is California. I had a friend from the college marching band who, as a graduation gift, paid to fly me out to California for a week and stay with her because that's where she was from. But, for me, most of my travel happened when I was in the band and we traveled places and I got to go to some really amazing places. So, that's another really great benefit to being in a, band in school, playing an instrument. Exactly. And, that was certainly a fun time. And I was fortunate that I had the opportunity to get to visit other places by continuing to stay in band through college, which, I went back and forth as to whether or not I wanted to do it. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Most of my friends in college were people that I knew from being in the band. So, and again, the four of us are here 15, 16 years after, I'm dating us all, after graduating. And, we're sitting here talking about how we knew each other from bands. So, I mean, music is one of those things that builds lifelong friendships, and you never lose touch with those people. So,
I completely agree. I completely agree. Marcus, so with obviously, being a musician, is this like a full-time gig, or what are you doing these days?
It's a part-time gig. I've been an auto mechanic for probably 14 years now, and
perfect. So I know where to go to in case I have car problems. Good to know.
Yes, exactly. I'm always looking work. I'm actually going into HVAC right now, so that's what I do as like a professional career. As far as music, it's part-time. Obviously, there's not much going on right now because of COVID-19.
Right.
So I've lost a lot of gigs because of that. But, honestly, the income that I make from it, it's pretty significant at times. But I probably got back into playing 5 years ago, and, just as a hobby, and I never expected it to come to this point. But, now that I've been doing it for so long and I'm used to it, I can probably never let it go. And I don't think I will. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. So.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I know even for us, we post high school and college, we're still jamming, getting together once a month for the past couple of years just to play, but it's in a basement and we're not, we'd love to play out again, but, it's hard having that type of schedule. There's, friends that have kids now and, try to find the time to go out or, set a schedule and, pray that it works, come up with a set list, but then we just turn it to just wanting to have fun. So we don't ever really commit to buckling down and putting together a set list. So, it just cycles as much as we still play and are, I would say active musicians for getting together. Definitely envious of, showing up to the Phoenix one night and then you're part of the band. I'm like, oh crap, Marcus is right there. I haven't seen him in a while. Oh, his band's playing. Oh, that's great. I had no idea. I was just at the right place. And, it's really fun to see a friend from back in the day that's still doing it. And the instrument that you played back in the day. Because obviously I moved over to drums, no longer play the clarinet as mentioned. So, my instruments have changed, but you're always a really good sax player. So, makes sense, and happy to see that you stuck with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, I hate to do this, but we are quickly approaching the end of the first part of our show. So this is definitely going to go into a part 2. So we're going to wrap this one, and hopefully you'll join us again for part 2 with Marcus. And I think we're going to talk a little more about the bands Marcus is playing with now and some of the shows that he's been doing. But as always, if you'd like to be considered as a guest, or if you have a topic for a future show, send us an email at distortedopinionshow@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook for extras and updates on future shows. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.